Now, I have been joined by two gentlemen who've not been here in a while. I'll start with Richard Adjaye Associates, who's a government spokesperson on infrastructure. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning, Dziffa.
How are you?
By the grace.
What have you been up to?
I mean, trying to contribute our quota in our national development. So, doing one or two things here and there, and also, trying to also keep touch with the family and supporting the government to be successful.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you, my dear.
And we also have Eric Edem Agbanya, who is the the Deputy National Youth Organizer of the NDC. Good morning, Eric.
Dziffa, good morning.
How are you?
Great.
It's like your voice is deep this morning. Oh?
Yes, you're looking very beautiful in your red.
Thank you. You're looking handsome in your black.
Thank you.
So we'll go right into our stories. We'll start with Nana Addo petitioned over 12 projects awarded to David Adjaye. So we know David Adjaye is a well-celebrated architecture. He's the one responsible for the African American Museum in Washington, D.C. But some architects in Ghana are not happy with him being awarded all these contracts, and they are even saying it might be illegal because he's not a resident of the country. So I read the story briefly from citynewsroom.com. It says, a Ghanaian architectural firm, Design and Associates Development Consortium, has petitioned the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, over possible bias in award of 12 state projects to David Adjaye and Associates. They go on to say that Adjaye and Associates are responsible for the National Cathedral, the Parliament complex that sparked the hashtag Drop That Chamber, as well as the Trade Fair Center, GNPC, Accra head office. All these projects, according to them, were not fairly awarded. I'm going to quote them briefly. It says, our concerns are premised on the total and absolute disregard and non-adherence to principles of transparency, fairness, equity, and law governing the procurement of professional service by structure companies and bodies. They are also saying that Mr. Adjaye's legitimacy to practice in Ghana is questionable because he is not a resident per the architect's decree NRCD 357. Furthermore, he's hiring foreign employees and recruiting foreign architects, which goes beyond him at least taking full advantage of our local talent here in Ghana. So they are saying, firstly, he has no business working in this country, and he's also recruiting non-Ghanaians for the projects, as well as him being awarded 12 projects does not seem like a fair deal to all the other people who are in this country who may have the same competencies as him. Richard, let me start with you here. Is there any merit to the concerns they are raising?
I'm just shocked, and I would like to say good morning to you amazing viewers. I'm kind of shocked and also mesmerized by the sort of thinking that went into the release from the Architects Association. I mean, it baffles me to say that we have an individual, a Ghanaian for that matter. It's not a foreigner, he's a Ghanaian. I mean, the mere fact that he's been able to excel elsewhere doesn't mean that he cannot come home and do same here. Is
he a resident of the country?
The man is a Ghanaian. He resides here, he has family members here, he goes and comes.
Does he live here fully?
I do not have those basic details, but I'm saying that the man has a family here, he goes and comes. He's from Ghana.
But respectfully,
let me take the issues one after the other. I mean, if the man could be given a work in the US, the Americans did not go on such tangent by saying that this is not an American and he's been given such a work and all that, so we are not happy. They looked at what he could produce. I do believe that we need to possibly look at the content of what the man can do. He's excelled in all those areas that have been given to him over the period. I mean, this assertion of 12 contracts having been awarded, I was expecting them to enumerate all these contracts. They just mentioned about 2 or 3. And one we know is not even, it got shut down right from the thinking and informative stage. It could not yield anything. So what they could even talk about is GNPC and the cathedral. And the cathedral is not a state thing. It's a private enterprise being pushed around, particularly the churches, by the government to help put together such a facility. Government is not contributing money to it. So if people brought their designs. And because in such scenarios, what happens is that individual companies are allowed to bring their designs. You tender, and based on what fit the desires of those who want to contract such a company, they pick one. And in the particular situation, they picked his designs. I don't know of the situation with the GMPC and others that they spoke about, because at the end of the day, it's only 2 or 3 that they mentioned. But in terms of giving numbers, wanted to sort of overblow the matter, they say, oh, 12.
So you think they're exaggerating with the 12?
I'm thinking that, I mean, there are genuine concerns that they felt like certain breaches were orchestrated during the award of contract. You could mention them. You could let us know that what were the conditions. You can't just say that, oh, conditions were not followed. According to who? Mm-hmm. Has the PPA said that to anybody that certain basic regulations were not followed? Mm-hmm. Who is complaining? What are the matters? Is it not people being positioned in this, being sour grapes and not being happy for the fact that a particular company is literally making waves? And do they have the details in terms of the number of employees they have? I know about 3 or 4 Ghanaians who are working in this company. So where from all this?
Okay.
I know people, classmates of mine from various masters that we've done that are no work with this company. So, I mean, let's take our time and understand the issue. Because the point is that it does not sit well with any of us if we go about tarnishing somebody had one image and reputation. The man has done works in France, in other countries. He's doing work in Ghana. There are people who are equally won several contracts in this. But remember that these are not the only projects government is doing across the country. Under the NDC, several contracts were awarded. Under Kufuor's region, several contracts were awarded. Designs were procured from our brothers from the architect fraternity. In terms of this regime, same is happening. So you mentioned about, say, 12 contracts have been awarded. 12 contracts. Which one and which one? We want to know all these things. I think we should take our time and understand that it doesn't really help us if we start tearing each other apart. Because, I mean, it's a Ghanaian for that matter. Mm-hmm. What did he do wrong? I mean, are we saying that even if you're Ghanaian and you are not residing in this country and you are possibly working elsewhere, you are working out there, your contribution to the national economy doesn't matter? Do you know the amount of money people who sweat, work on a daily basis, the sacrifices they go through, the frustration they go through, and the impact they continue to make in our Ghanaian economy? The monies that are being brought to support the national economy, the homes that are being built, the schools people who are being put to school by people who are cracking their back out there through the snows, through the desert, and through weird means of wanting to sort of make sure they keep their family up and going.
Okay, so Richard,
we want to say that all these people, at the end of the day, because they are out there working, they are no longer Ghanaians and they do not merit anything. We have Chinese, other people
Richard,
from other nationals, any money in this country. So what's from all this kind of thinking?
When you go out to become a lawyer in the UK or the US, for example, and they say you've worked for multiple firms in these countries, when you come back to Ghana, until you take the Ghana bar, I don't think you can go to a Ghanaian courtroom and represent Eric for a case, for instance. There are processes you need to follow to do things legally. Yes, you might have been born here, but if you've not lived here for God knows how many years, maybe you left here as a kid, you're still a Ghanaian. But legally, you should do the right thing so that when you are awarded something, let's say you win a case, no one can come out and say you've not done the right thing. What these guys are saying is, one, the man in question, David Adjaye, is not a resident of the country. Two, he's not part of their association, so he's not a legal resident, he's not operating here in Ghana, and he's also hiring foreign workers. We admit it that he's Ghanaian, we're all proud of him, but shouldn't he follow the due process? You
see, I mean, you cannot put the same thing in the same context. Because I did my law at University of London. I did not do it in Ghana.
Do you practice?
I do businesses, so I don't really focus on practice.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to push across is that we ought to appreciate the fact that there's freedom of association. You cannot force people to join associations when they are not ready to do so. There's Association of Ghana Industries, AGI. There are a good number of companies that are not part of it. You cannot say because I'm not a member of AGI and I have a factory, I have a business, I cannot do same because I do not belong to the association. You cannot say that because I did not come to the association to register. Because I cannot understand. I mean, I've seen them quote this, and I've not addressed my mind to those laws that they are quoting. And I think that I would want to do that subsequent after this program and understand those facts. Because the point is that, for me, what is of relevance in these matters is that is the procurement law being breached, if indeed such a thing has happened. That is where I would have issues to talk about. But this business about the person not residing in this country, and who says the person doesn't reside here? Who determines that? A group of people sitting down thinking that the person is making waves out there. So tomorrow somebody says, Asamoah is not residing in Ghana, but when Ghana needs his effort, he's brought in to contribute his energies and his effort towards the national team. It's Michaelasian and other individuals who are making giants. This is the year of return. We are calling for our brothers and sisters out there, even those in diaspora who are not Ghanaian, to come and contribute.
He still needs to register with them legally. So it's not something, and if they're saying he hasn't registered with them legally, then there's something wrong there.
Those issues are indeed things that need to be looked at. I think they need to look at that from that angle. They ought to talk from that angle. That, okay, you know what?
That's exactly what they're saying.
You
that legally he needs to register.
They should write to him, but not to go and conduct press conference, accuse him of things and saying that he's not residing in this country. If he's not a member of the association, I think that you need him to be a member of the association. You write to him and you talk to him. But these kind of activities and the kind of backbiting that is going on, do you think this man will be comfortable even joining the association if he deemed to be want to do so?
All right, Eric, let me bring you in here. Thank you very much.
Dziffa, thank you very much, and good morning to our cherished viewers across the world. Before I even come to the topic, today begins the filing for our parliamentary primaries. You may be aware that we are conducting our internal parliamentary primaries as a political party, and candidates will start filing from today. So I want to use your platform to wish all the people who picked forms and will be filing, especially the youth, women, and candidates who may have some forms of physical disability or physically challenged candidates. We wish them the very best, and we hope that the best candidates will emerge so that they form majority in Parliament in the next Parliament, which will commence on January 7th, 2021. Having said that, Dziffa, I'm very surprised that at the arguments being advanced by my brother Richard, especially when you introduced him as the government spokesperson on infrastructure, because as a government spokesperson on infrastructure, it is expected that at least he would have some basic appreciation of the issues that have been raised in the past few days or weeks concerning this, say, David Adjaye's contracts and all of that. But it does appear to me as if the issues as it have been raised, because as usual, a government that doesn't pay attention to issues that have been I'm not over jumping. So he hasn't even taken. I'm taking you to the argument
and speak your views.
So he's going to do
I've spoken my views.
Yes, it's not just about your views. I'm coming to the
first one. Okay, continue.
The first one. He mentioned that this issue about freedom of association. Are you responding to me or you are responding
to the issue?
No, but it's important
so the
to
way
set the
it works is
he
can respond to what you've said, and then you'll get a chance to respond to him as well.
The issue, but it's important to correct some of the misconceptions that you have put out. The first one is that you spoke about freedom of association. In this case of the Ghana Institute of Architects, it is not about freedom of association. A lawyer in Ghana cannot choose to belong to the bar. If you don't belong to the bar, you are simply not a lawyer. So what is happening is that you have a constitutional provision which states that if you want to practice in Ghana as an architect, you should be a registered architect in this country. Trust me, Sir David Adjaye is a British architect with Ghanaian origin, and that must be put on record. He even said that he's a Ghanaian. He has Ghanaian origin. But what we know about him is that he's a British architect. Yes, it is true that he is one of the most celebrated architects in the world. I'm sure when you are looking at the top 10 or top 20, his name may be mentioned. And we are proud that somebody with a Ghanaian origin would achieve or reach such heights. In fact, in 2012, Sir David Adjaye was actually adjudged as one of British most influential black persons. So his as an individual, his professional qualification and achievement in his field is not in dispute, and nobody is against him as an individual. But what we are saying is that you can be the best practicing architect in the world. When you come to Ghana, you must work within the laws of this country. And the law says that before you work as an architect, you must be a registered architect with the Ghana Institute of Architects. And that is why they even grant temporary status to architects who are here to only perform some specific functions or specific projects and they leave. So, for example, you can have a South African architect come into Ghana to, let's say, construct the cathedral because maybe the owners of the project think that it's the South African architect that has what it takes to do what they want. When you come, even before that South African architect practice, you are granted a temporary membership status only specifically to that project. So that license or permission that is granted to you to practice is related to only that project. As long as that project expires, you cannot practice in this country. So the first question that we have to be answering as a people is that, yes, Sir David Adjaye has Ghanaian origin, celebrated globally as a great architect and all of that. Is he a registered architect in this country? No. If he is not, how did he bid for state even contracts and got some of these contracts? Again, with this issue of even the drop the chamber and all of that, do we know? We know for a fact that Parliament is supposed to empanel a public tender entity committee that is supposed to do the procurement and award the contract. That has not been done. So how was he selected as the architect for that project? When the Design and Associates released the list of 12 contracts that have been given, apart from the cathedral, there have been about 3 GNPC projects, there have been new terminal, airport city projects, and all of that. So you want to ask yourself, a person who is not legally registered to practice as an architect, how did the person pass through the Public Procurement Act 2003, the Act 663? How did the person pass through the procurement process to even get a contract? These are the illegalities that we are referring to. And so when we are saying these things and then the architect, the professional bodies are raising issues, it is not for my brother who is speaking as a spokesperson on infrastructure to say that maybe they are so great because one person is getting this contract and all of that. Just do the right thing. What is preventing David from going to register as an architect? You asked a very important question. You can acquire your law certificate or whatever in any other country and be the best practicing lawyer. But when you come here, you are expected to go through a certain process before you can be ratified as a lawyer to practice here in our jurisdiction. In the architecture sector or world, it is same. No matter who you are, when you come here, before you acquire that license, you're supposed to write our professional exams, undertake a study here for a year, and then you are granted that particular permit. Sir David Adjaye hasn't done that. So we ought to question the people who even have awarded this contract because it amounts to an illegality. And that is what we are speaking about. Again, at the beginning of this year, the Ghana Institute of Architects wrote a petition to the president saying that since President Akufo-Addo came, he has blatantly refused to set up the board. They're supposed to have a board for the Ghana Institute of Architects. So the president has refused to set up the board. The previous board's tenure has expired. So you only have some members of management running the institution, and some decisions should have been taken at the board level. That hasn't been done. With all the happenings now and the fact that it has come to the public light, I mean, all of us are now aware that one individual is getting all the juicy contracts as an architect, even when he is not registered. Is this to suggest that this and many other reasons are the reasons why President Akufo-Addo blatantly refused to set up a board, even when it is a constitutional duty for him to do so? I think that's a bit of a stretch. I'm not stretching, but I'm just saying that you have refused to set up a board. It's a constitutional mandate. Now, the same board is supposed to supervise or preside over matters related to this area. Now we are being told that one individual who is not even registered to practice here is the one getting all of this contract, and you are ignoring all the laws. You are ignoring all the Public Procurement Acts and provisions that have been made in the Constitution. Doesn't this, confirm some rumors, or is it not legitimate for anybody to assume that you intentionally have refused to set up the board because you think that by setting that up, they will correct some of these happenings?
Okay.
So these are the issues that we ought to respond to. Nobody is against our brother said David Adjaye. Like I said, we are all proud of him.
But let it be known that
what he's doing is illegal, because he is not licensed to practice in this country.
Thank you very much, and thank you at home too for staying with us. We will go for a quick break. If you have any questions or comments, do use the hashtag Breakfast Daily and the WhatsApp line 0550-585-832, and I'll be sure to read them. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Breakfast Daily on CCTV. Thank you so much for staying with us. I've received some of your messages, so I will read them and then allow Eric to make his closing remarks, and then Richard will also respond, and we'll move on to the next topic. Dziffa, your message today was right. We should make Ghana better for ourselves first, not because of foreigners. Please, I implore you to keep reminding Ghanaians of the common sense patriotic message as often as you can on CCTV. Thank you. This is coming from Jojo Williams in Achimota. Thank you so much, Jojo. I'll try my best. Good morning, host. It's pathetic the kind of procurement lapses we are saddled with under this this government. While we have a whole ministry in charge of procurement, while all these are happening, how can one man and company win all these contracts on genuine grounds? The change we voted for from Olina in Dolimo. So Eric Edem Abanya, who is the Deputy National Youth Organizer of the NDC, was just making his concluding remarks for us. And then we'll allow Richard Asante Yabua, who's a government spokesperson on infrastructure, also respond, and then we'll move on to the next topic. Eric.
Dziffa, in conclusion, I will admonish our brother, Sir David Adjaye, that he has achieved a lot in his professional career. And every country that he has practiced, he knows that there are laws, and he's worked within those laws. If you really respect Ghanaians, he should not find it difficult doing the right thing and acquiring the right license and getting registered to practice. In fact, what is happening now, it is even a collateral damage to his professional career, especially when he's somebody that will celebrate globally. So he knows the right things. He knows that it is illegal for him to practice without a license. He knows that it is not enough to just register your company as a foreign company in Ghana. But as an individual, before you get a contract here as an architect, you're supposed to be a registered architect. So he should pass through the right processes and acquire a license to practice. Nobody is against him as a person. We are proud of him being a Ghanaian, doing great things out there. But as we speak, he doesn't have the legal status to practice, and that he should take steps to rectify. However, beyond him, we ought to also go in and investigate the individuals who have awarded him these contracts. What kind of scrutiny was done during the procurement process to know whether or not we are awarding a contract to an illegal entity? So steps must be taken, punitive measures must be taken, so that in the future we will not even have, because what is happening is that we are setting a bad precedent. The next time, before you realize, somebody will be representing government in court as a lawyer, only for us to realize that the person is not even, has not been called to the bar to practice and all of that, because it's the same thing. They are all working within the professional body. So I think that those who have given him the contract, all the 12 contracts, we must investigate to find out how he won such contract, because it is not good for him. The rumors that he's so close to some relatives of the president,
not do the rumors,
and we have I'm not going to play that. We have seen people like Gabi openly calling for support for him on social media and all of that.
But we also have a message here. We have a message here that I need to read and then hear Richard's response. So it's coming from Engineer Mahama, and he's saying The architect didn't school or actualize his profession here. So just like someone pursuing law outside, you need to register here under the institution of architects when you are down here, whether Ghanaian or not. He also goes on to say that the architect can even be registered, but after 1 year, if he doesn't renew his license, he is deemed as someone who is not a member in good standing and cannot also go ahead to run certain projects. So it seems as though legally...
I think those points, I made them earlier on, and I said that, you know what, going on petitions and press conferences will not help address the issue. If you may know, you could write to the entity and write to David Adjaye and Associates and talk to him as a brother and guide him as to how...
But shouldn't the people in charge of our procurement have done their due diligence?
I'll get to that point. Those ought to be the best way forward, assuming you want to resolve the issues. I mean, there's no contest as to his capabilities in terms of the things that he's done, because he's exemplified himself over the years out there beyond the shores of this country. And I would want to say that, I mean, some of these things, what we do is to draw the attention of the individuals involved. I mean, people dragging presidents, the president do not award contracts to people. I mean, institutions do. If you have issues with them, I mean, that is why there are various processes that you can use to remedy the situation. If you think that things are going on that are untoward, you can either go to court or you can use appropriate means to resolve those issues. Charge and other institutions are there to check some of these things. But for political parties and for this, and people, he talked about the fact that it's the whole association that is on this tangent. No, it's just a consortium. And somebody will say another firm that is equally battling this thing out there.
But I think we minimize the issue when we do it in that manner.
No, I'm trying to put the issues in the right perspective. I'm not saying that it's not as important as it's being discussed. It's extremely important. That is why it has come to the fore. But what I want us to put our heads on ought to be that we ought not to be so much involved in tangent that destroys. I believe that if there are regulatory failures or inefficiencies or difficulties, and that ought to be followed, and this man has not followed, and the institution has not been followed, it is right we point to them, and that is what is being done. But to overstretch it and make it look like, I mean, he's not qualified to do something, he cannot do it, and it's been given to him because he has to do one or two things. I've had a lot of sort of analysis being pushed out there. I would want to say that, I mean, it's time for David and his team to also do the needful.
But what does this say about our procurement processes? If let's put the 12, let's put the alleged 12 projects aside. Let me finish the question I want to ask you.
You can understand why I've been speaking this in this manner. You see, there are a lot of contracts that are international competitive bidding. It's open to the international community. There are companies can bid. But there are companies, Ghanaian companies, that do sometimes bid for contracts on behalf of their international partners. And sometimes they do register and do all the processes, but they partner an international firm, like maybe David's company. And we've seen a lot of that. So that's something, because I do not have the full details. Because it might as well be that this whole arrangement was orchestrated by a Ghanaian firm that is partnering with David's company.
It would have been in the detail.
So, I mean, this is one person I'm speaking.
No, this isn't one person.
I'm saying that this, what we are talking about today, is a petition that has been sent to the president. And these are the concerns of the people. And I'm saying that if we should hear from the other side, before I realize, it could as well mean that this were some of the things that happened. Because we haven't heard from the other side, I don't want us to sort of crucify people and collapse company, but it is possible. It has been done over the years in this country where Ghanaian firms partner foreign companies. We sit here and talk about Chinese firms where a Chinese company that do not have a concession comes and they are doing. You go and check it and realize the Ghanaian firm that procured the site did everything and sort of either sold their contract out or partnered with the company, and they are doing it. So we need to be very careful before we crucify somebody, when we are inviting people who are doing well also to come and contribute to this country's development. That is my only frustration.
Thank you very much, Richard. We'll move on to our next topic here, and it's talking about the Sandema Senior High School, where one young man unfortunately lost his life. I'm reading from page 20 of the Daily Graphic. And it says here, one student dies over demonstration. One male student of the Sandema Senior High School Senior High Technical School in Bolsa North District in the Upper East region, died last Tuesday when the police tried to quell a student's disturbance in the school. One female student was also injured. So what ended up happening was there was some issue between the cadets and the students. Authorities called in the police, and somehow this young man lost his life. It's been alleged that he was shot with a bullet, but it also says that the police commander is also saying the police had rubber bullets. So we don't necessarily know the cause of death of the young man. All we know is that the students had an issue with the cadet. Policemen were called in. Students are now going to stay home for 2 weeks as a result of this. And what lessons can we learn, and how do we ensure that this doesn't happen again in future? This is senior high school students. They are below the age of 18, and one has lost his life over a demonstration. Adam, let me start with you.
Dziffa, very, very sad story, because I mean, lives do matter. So when you have a student who you leave your family, that you're going to acquire education so that you can build a brighter future for yourself, and the next minute the family will hear about your sudden demise. It's very sad. It's even more difficult when the death occurred through this kind of situation or incidents. My problem is that we keep saying that let's do things to ensure this doesn't happen again, but these incidents on our various campuses, both tertiary and secondary, are becoming one too many.
Yeah.
Not too long ago, we all saw what happened at the University of Education Winneba campus. Clash between students and police, and tear gas was fired, people got injured, stones were being pelted at the police and the students and all of that. KNUST, we know what happened when the Vice Chancellor decided to convert the hall, the single-sex halls to mixed halls and all of that. Many other senior high schools have had some of these problems. The unique thing about this particular Sandema story is that this time around, the clash, I can say, was between students, in the sense that the cadets is a student body, it's a club or it's an organization within the student body. And the students had an issue, the police came in, it led to this. Two things. One, the culture of violence that is gradually crippling into our senior high schools and tertiary institutions is one that we must all be worried about. I have been a student leader before. I have been a student leader at basic level, secondary, tertiary. At secondary level, there have been times that we will embark on what we call positive defiance. But you do it in a manner that will not insult or result in the injury of anybody. But this is the first time. I mean, now we are hearing issues. The moment students want to defy an order and all of that, they try to resort to using basic weapons like stones and all of that. I think that at the police. Yeah, throwing stones at the police. I think that is something that we must all condemn. But while condemning this, we must also draw the attention of the police to crowd control. Because I also know for a fact that most of our police officers, especially when you have rowdy students in a demonstration or protest, how they handle some of these issues is not the best. I mean, it doesn't augur well for us. In 2013 actually, a group of Commonwealth Hall students were embarking on a march, and I'm sure you recall that story where the police rounded them up, tear gas, they molested some of them and all of that. I was part of that group. I was in school at the time. And you see, the problem is that it's not as if the students are not always reasonable. But sometimes the police thinks that in trying to control, the only way to get the students to do what they want is to order them and ensure that they use force, they employ force. Force should be the last option. But there's an issue. Students are fighting their cadets. You come in with weapons and all of that, and the students have to clash with you. I think that we have to investigate and see that the police officer that may be responsible for that stray bullet that led to the death of the student, so that they learn basic crowd control practices and all of that. But having said this, I think as a people, we should be deeply worried also about the channels for resolving challenges in our senior high schools. When you go to the senior high schools, you see that these days, because of technology, our younger brothers and sisters in school feel that there is a need for them to fight for their rights and get some privileges. But you still have a situation where most of the teachers in the senior high schools still practice this father-son or father-daughter, father-children relationship, where they expect that whatever they say is final. We need to establish some common grounds for resolving conflict, so that when students have a problem with their cadets, they know that the option is not to go and fight the cadets or clash with them openly, but they can trust that these structures have been established, and when we employ those structures, we will get our issues addressed. But if until we address some of these issues, we keep hearing these issues about students clashing, schools being closed down, academic work is affected, culture of violence keeps getting into the students and all of that. It's sad. Sad that we have to lose the students this way. But let's have this issue investigated. Let's know those who are the culprits, and then appropriate sanctions must be given. And let's pray and hope and work towards ensuring that things like this do not occur again in the future. But condolences to the bereaved family, and we hope that those that are injured, they get speedy recovery. But it's a very, very sad story, and not one of the stories you would want to be discussing on TV and an early morning like this. I'm quite saddened by the development in Sandema Secondary Technical School.
And hopefully this is the last we'll hear of it. Richard?
I think I would like to associate myself with the sentiments of my brother on this particular subject matter. Because the point is that you can never use violence to achieve any positive cause. I haven't seen it happen anywhere where you think that you can use violence means to achieve a positive cause. You will try, you will get a lot of your people killed, people will be maimed and all that. But you need to appreciate the fact that we ought to sort of follow the laid down rules and regulations. I mean, there are about 4 or 5 issues that I see from this incident. The first aspect had to do with the conduct of our men and women in uniform, how they conduct their affairs, and the kind of respect as citizens we give to these people. I mean, I've gone a lot of places and I've traveled quite a bit. But I see that, I don't know, I think there ought to be a conscious effort to work on the mindset of the Ghanaian. The kind of respect and attitude and posture we sort of, and how we respond to the police, it's quite terrible. It's extremely terrible. We are always confrontational in terms of how we want to deal with the police. I've seen elsewhere that when a policeman speaks, or a military man or fire person is even walking by, people will literally bow and appreciate the sort of sacrifices and contribution they continue to make to their nations. I've seen it. But in this country, it's not like that.
But this is a situation where the students, before the police came, I'm trying to create a context for you, they felt slightly oppressed by the cadets, right? They had their issues with the cadets. Maybe they were frustrated with the administration in the school. So when our policemen are coming, should they always attach force to every issue, or should they try to come in as mediators?
That's another angle that I think we need to look at, because the point is that these are students, 15, 16, tops 16-year-old, you would want to call them kids, or young girls and boys in school. I mean, all of us have been there. And those periods, situations where, you could not, because some of these were happening during my time too. I remember back at school, I was a senior prefect. We have to devise a means of wanting to sort of resolve the issues where people are sacked by the school administration because they flouted one school regulation or the other, by putting together student disciplinary council or committee. Then when we are able to deal with it, then we can forward you to the one run by the school administration. These things are there. The idea was that people, reading the story, you get the details that people overstayed their time of going to bed. And the cadets punished about 9 of them, and they spoke to their other colleagues, and hell broke loose, and there was total chaos. Another aspect, apart from the sad incident, is that beyond people losing their lives, most of these cases, you see school properties being destroyed. Yeah. I mean, what people forget about is that it's the same monies that we want to use in expanding the basic infrastructure at various schools, making sure that students are getting the right books, people are getting the right equipment at their labs and all that. The same money ought to be used in refurbishing or renovating these facilities. Okay. And I think that going forward, we need to let our brothers and sisters, particularly those, because the school has closed, I'm sure some of them will be watching, we need to let them understand that these are our future leaders. Mm-hmm. The leaders of tomorrow are those who are at primary school, nursery, university, and other things. And they need to understand that whatever they do today, tomorrow they will be judged by it. And they ought not to allow this principle of social loafing. Let me stay within the midst of the crowd and misconduct myself, create further mayhem, create abuse. Because the point is that until the autopsy report comes out, we will not even be able to tell whether the bullet came from the police. Mm-hmm. We will not even be able to tell whether it was a bullet.
But we know the cadet does not have a bullet.
The one thing we know is somebody's dead. Yeah. As of now, nobody knows whether it was a bullet that killed somebody. Mm-hmm. What we know is that somebody has died as a result of that, which is very unfortunate. Okay. But we wait for the autopsy report so that we can have the detailed cause of death of this young person. Then we wish the family and the school, the entire school population, our condolences.
Thank you very much, Richard. Now take a look at our last story here. Government makes 258,000 Ghana cedis from City TV's War Against Indiscipline campaign. I'm reading from citynewsroom.com. CCTV's collaboration with the Ghana Police Service to clamp down on errant drivers through its War Against Indiscipline campaign has accrued to the state over 258,000 Ghana cedis. The amount was realized from 499 drivers. I'm going to read an excerpt of the police statement. It says, the exercise, which started on 17th June 2019, has so far covered specific road noted for reckless driving within and outside Accra to ensure sanity and safety. These roads include Spintex, Legon Bypass, Dowenya, Pokwase, Amasaman, Kaswa Weja, Adenta, Dodowa, amongst others. So we're really excited that this has happened. Can we apply this to more things that we're doing wrongly in this country to get revenue for the state and lessons to learn from CCTV's War Against Indiscipline? Adam, go ahead.
I think that CCTV must be commended greatly for this campaign that you have launched. I've been monitoring the feedback on social media, and it goes a long way to vindicate some of us our position that the media must do more than just providing a platform for NDC and NPP to come and argue their issues out. And this really is a great initiative, and all of us must be proud of CCTV for the campaign on the war against indiscipline. When you look at Ghana as a country and the worrying reports that annually we lose about $230 million to road accidents, either in treating fatalities, repairing, all sorts of things. We spend $230 million is what we lose to road accidents. Then you further check and realize that indiscipline on the roads is listed as the #1 cause of road accidents in this country. Then you appreciate that this war against indiscipline is a campaign not just to save lives and reduce the spate of accidents in this country, but also to save the public purse. Because somebody's indiscipline may lead to an accident which becomes a cost even to the state. And apart from that, we have lost quality human resource, students, professionals, many people to road accidents and all of that. We've even lost sitting members of parliament to road accidents and all of that. So I think that it is a very great campaign, except to further demand that you take it beyond just the roads, where you are focused on drivers and how disciplined they are on the road. I want us to take the war against indiscipline to other sectors, like sanitation. Recently, I was in Rwanda, and when you look at how beautiful Kigali as a city is, and how disciplined they are, but Ghana, people take the law for granted, and people think that it is okay to litter around and expect that, oh, there's some companies that have been employed by government to come and pick it up and all of that. So we take some of these things for granted. The indiscipline is not just on our roads. It's even in our institutions. It's even in how we treat our environment and all of that. So it's a great initiative, and we must all be happy. For me, my focus is not even on how much the state has accrued out of the fines that you are imposing. It is rather how much you have saved the state. I mean, and also how much, I mean, the number of lives that you are helping to save. That for me is the focus. It is not about the fine that you are imposing and the 200,000 that we are told that we are getting. We only plead that the police service should, after the cameras are gone, they should continue doing the right things. Because somebody told me that, look, when you watch the videos that you get from City TV, then they realize that, hey, are these policemen also in Ghana? Because when the cameras are not there, the practice is some way, somehow different.
We have high quality policemen.
Oh, yes, we do appreciate there are some policemen that are, but we hope that when the cameras are absent, all the police officers on duty across the country should also continue that tangent of the promotion of war against indiscipline.
Thank you so much.
It seems
I have to allow Richard to talk now.
Maybe Richard have to tell us why it seems it's only MPP MPs that are caught in the videos.
Okay, Richard, over to you.
Only MPP MPs. Why?
I'm excited.
Don't respond to him.
I know, right? The mischief from NDC. I'm so excited, and I think that we need to commend and I say kudos to City and this dream. I think you are not having nightmares. You are rather dreaming dreams that will help this country progress. And I think that the whole team and your management ought to be applauded in this fight. I mean, this is helping kill a lot of things and a lot of Ghanaian mentality that happens to sort of cost this country a lot. This attitude of some of us being made to feel like we are lesser mortals and others being thinking that they are higher mortals. This attitude of big manism or big humanism or do you know who I am sort of mentality and attitude thinking that people can walk over everybody. I think this campaign is helping kill that. Second aspect is you do not know. How long have you been in this
just 2 months.
Just 2 months. Within 2 months, you know the number of... you've literally built a bridge across a village. You've literally built a nursing school. You've literally built you supplied medical supply to a school. Also, school fees, you provided funds for that.
You're talking about the
money. I'm talking about the monies you are raising through this. Because the point, the people are paying fines.
What are your thoughts on using some of that money to empower our policemen and women as well?
I think I agree with you. I agree with you that some of this money can go into that. But there are other things that and I'm thinking that you're only even focusing it in Accra. When you extend the tentacles to the other side of the country, I could imagine. And what the police need is these kind of things. It embodies them. I mean, because they've been abused in terms of people speaking down to them, talking down to them. I can imagine some of the members of parliament and the way they speak to some of these people, people thinking that they can be panicked. Because I know a police officer who was transferred during the NDC era because he stood up to a minister. Yes.
Okay.
He was somebody who was demoted literally.
Wow.
The person was brought as a commander and sent to some office with a chair because he stood up to an MP, a minister.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm excited, and I think that City, you want to continue with this, and I pray that you do not back down. Whatever resources that you need, we pray that God find His.
Oh, the government can help happen and make it happen.
They'll catch more of your MPs.
Oh no, I mean the next round you are catching more MPs. Now you're using the route that the MPP MPs. I'll show you the NDC.
Thank you so much for being with us. I was joined by Richard Adjaye Associates, who's government spokesperson on infrastructure, and Eric Edem Agbanya, who is the Deputy National Youth Organizer. I don't know why I keep saying National Deputy. Deputy National Youth Organizer of NDC. I hope I see you both next time, and I hope you enjoy what's left of your week.